I'm going to plant my potatoes today, and a little disclaimer before I do plant them is here in northern Utah, I've never been able to grow very good potatoes. And we live only about an hour away from the famous Idaho potato growing area. And so it's easy for us to just run up there and buy potatoes. But I always grow a few potatoes anyway, just for fun. And also this year, I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment with my potatoes. I did this a few years ago. I took some just leftover potatoes that I had bought and used them as my seed potatoes and cut them up and put them in, and they grew just fine, but the potatoes that formed underneath were not very big. And so I haven't done that again since then. But this year I have some potatoes that are left over from my winter storage, and as you can see, they're already sprouting, and so I need to do something with them. And so I decided, I like to experiment with things, so I decided that I would try once again this year experimenting planting these potatoes. And so those of you who have planted potatoes before, you will know that these eyes that are already sprouting on here, those are what will grow into the vine of the potato, and then the roots on that vine will set the potatoes. This here is a red Pontiac that I'll be planting today. And I'm going to also plant a few Yukon Gold and some White Russets that I'll be planting. But when you get your potatoes, you usually want to cut it so that you have at least 2 or 3 of these eyes on each piece of potato that you're going to plant. Now, I'm leaving more on these because I've got extra potatoes left over from the winter, and so I'm just going to probably cut them in half and throw them in. Now, it's also a good idea to usually cut these 2 or 3 days, or one or 2 or 3 days before you're ready to plant them, and they kind of scab over here on the potato part, and then that closes the potato and there's less chance of disease. But I want to go ahead and get mine in today, so I'm going to do that. So let me just take a minute here and I'll show you how I do that. Now, most people, when they plant their potatoes, they just plant them in a row, and that's what I do. I put my potatoes in a row, but what I like to do with them also is I'll just put it in at ground level, and then I'll come along and dig a little trench down each side of my row and throw that dirt up on top of the potatoes, and then that makes the potato buried deeper, and it also mounds it up, and I flood irrigate, and that mound kind of helps me control my irrigation a little bit. So that's the way that I do mine. So let me show you a few hills here. Okay, and then I mentioned that after I have planted, I'll come along and dig a little ditch and put that on top of the potatoes. Then when I'm done, I've got a nice straight row that's mounded up and ready for irrigating. So we will check this out again when the fall comes, and we'll see if these potatoes grew as good as the seed potatoes that you would buy. So we'll be talking to you later. This is what the row of potatoes looks like now that I have finished it. I noticed this morning too that some of the peas we planted last week are starting to come up. So the gardening season is definitely upon us. Good luck with yours.